the identity of a male is special, and that being a father comes with some responsibility. Maybe perhaps I will begin by ruffling the table and shaking the table this morning and asking how many men were told Happy Father's Day today by their spouses, by people around. Yes, okay. That means we're improving. I notice, I don't know about you, I notice that the load on the shoulders of fathers is enormous. I told my pastor's wives the other day, I said to them, I said, please, you people should do a conference. And in that conference, your theme should be lifting up burdens from the shoulder of men. Because I notice that when our wives are celebrating their birthday, they demand that we take them out. When we are celebrating our birthday, we take them out. When we are celebrating our wedding anniversary, we take them out. So I revolted the other day and I said to my wife, Nima are taking Nawa out. Why is it that it is me every time that we do the taking out? And have you noticed again that the same with the children? When something goes wrong, what they receive from the mothers are comforting word. Then you notice the end of the statement, Kajira baban kaseyadao. And I'm not complaining on behalf of men. And we're not complaining. It's a huge responsibility to be a man. Particularly also, in addition to that, to be a father. In a society where everyone is demanding attention, and we are having a lot of self-expression and a demand for attention in our contemporary world. So everyone wants a day. It's virtually, have you noticed that every day now is virtually World Something Day? In fact, somebody said that the only thing that is remaining now is World Walking Day or Walk Laughing Day. I said that one day, it is day, smiling day and happy day. So, this context, this desire for recognition is taking us path that we have not charted before. And with that comes a tendency to want to seek identity, responsibility elsewhere. And we forget that for the child of God, for the male child of God, and for the father, there is a God-given responsibility. Just 2 days ago, I was asking one of our pastors to see me, and he asked me, he said, look, I need to go and conduct a funeral. So I said to him, I said, okay, when you come back, then we can meet. So when he came back, something in me said to ask him what actually happened to the lady who died. Apparently this lady is his landlady. And I asked, I said, what happened? Because I had visited him in his station before, and I met the woman. And I said, oh, what happened to the woman that she passed on? And he said to me, he said, her son beat her up. He said, and it happens regularly. Our son will come home and beat her up, and she will be unconscious, and they take her to the hospital. And evidently when she comes back and an action wants to be taken, we say, Abashikawa yaro ne yana girma. So This particular one happened just 4 days ago, and she's gone. We lost her. And the funeral was conducted, and she was buried. And I sense that that's a sign of what to expect in the future. Because we are in a time, and I get this debate, whose responsibility it is to raise up a child to be responsible. And you hear people saying a lot of things, society, school. In fact, it's so bad in present days that if a child is not doing well, I have seen parent, as someone that is administering a school, I have seen parent come to challenge school and ask, what are you doing that you're not raising my child well? So we are seeing, and we're seeing a storm that is gathering. That if the man doesn't take his rightful place, and the war against man and fathers is not now. You notice in Genesis that the Bible said in verse 26, 27, and 28, the Bible says, God said, let us create man in our image, in our likeness. And I sense that that's where the problem lies. And that's where the crown, the glory also resides. Because when the devil heard that God was creating man in his image, he declared war. And that is why the male, the father, must know that he is at war. Men should understand that you are fighting a battle. And can I say to you, is a battle, is a war that people will not sympathize with you. You know, it's the male child that is expected, the father is expected to be bleeding and still provide comfort for another person bleeding. The father is the one to be in pain, and society expects that he keeps calm. The father is expected that even when things are not going on well, when he doesn't know where the next meal will come from, he is expected to give hope to the children and to the entire family. That to be a father and to be a male is not easy. And I'm not just talking about you being a male. Being a father in the true sense of the word, the way the Bible describes it. You know, there's a difference between fathering a child and being a father. There are people who father children, but they are not there. They've just brought a child to the world, and the responsibility of being a father, they don't even have a knowledge of it, or perhaps some of them do, but they don't just care. So I sense that this morning, as we look at the theme, fathers, vessels of God, vessels of nobility in the reign of God. I am sensing that this morning God wants us to visit the role and the responsibility of men, so that if we have lost it, we can reclaim it. So that if we've never known it, we can know it today. That there is a battle that the enemy has declared against fathers. And our future, if care is not taken, believe you me, the problem we have now is that if we don't raise godly generation, godly children, the future is bleak. I'm not talking about raising Western children. Raising children with Western ideal is not what I'm talking about. Because we've reduced fathering children or raising children as fathers to just provision. Once I've provided, to hell with everybody, we say in our heart. But it's beyond that. that the responsibility of being a father and raising up children, male and female, that will be useful in the hands of the Almighty is not a kettle of fish. It's something that is very, very significant. It's very important. So this morning, as we read through Deuteronomy, I sense God repeating the same thing he said in Genesis chapter 1. You notice in Genesis chapter 1, when God created man, he said to him, he said, occupy. He said, have dominion over the creation of my hands. So there is a responsibility that God has given to us. And that responsibility from the beginning is that men, fathers, are supposed to have dominion. Dominion everywhere they are. Dominion, first of all, in their family. So if you are a father here and you don't have dominion, and when I say dominion, control over your family, there is a problem. There is a problem. That the responsibility of the home, can I say to us this morning, is an aberration that the work of dominion is left to our women. It's an aberration. That there is a limit, and I see it in the life of my children. Believe you, I see it. Listen to me, I see it. Oftentimes, I am in the room and I hear their mother saying, Jeremiah, Donald, Desmond, do this, don't do this. And I hear her shouting on top of her voice. And she's screaming on top of her voice. And I notice that the children don't even care. Because you see, for her, it's as if she's appealing to the children. But I've noticed that once I appear, it's as if the senses return. It's as if there is a new sheriff in town. And I sense that it is that, and please listen to me, I beg you, it is that the devil is fighting against. And we are now having silly curriculums in our curriculums in school. So they bring you curriculum that Sigmund Freud and all other Western theories have brought. And I say to people, I say, look, if it was working for them in the West, look at the product they are producing in the West. If it's working for them in the West, I bet you it will know if they replicate it here, the same thing they are witnessing there is what we will witness here. So it's beyond speaking Queen's English, raising children. It's beyond getting a good job. That's not what we are talking about. That's not what raising children is all about. That's not what being a father is all about. It's beyond that. A father is a role model. A father is one that raises children and teach them how to have dominion. Because that's the primary assignment of humanity, to have dominion upon the works of God's hand. Now we see a reversal. The things that we have created are dominating our lives. God says, let man have dominion. And I sense that in Deuteronomy chapter 1, that was what God was still replicating. God told them, he said, I have given you this land. He said, go and spy it, take over this land. And do you know that the foot drag and their restlessness caused trouble for them? So you sense that you had a people that were faithless. Even though they spied the land, they saw the land, and they said it was good. Of the 12 of them, only 2 came to give a good report. And the Bible regards that as faithfulness, as a sign of trusting in the Lord. Hebrews tells us that he that believes in God must believe that he is the rewarder of those who earnestly seek him. So you sense that God is saying there is a reign that he wants to reign in the affairs of men. And the role of the father is central. Please listen to me. Our role is central. That's the reason why any society that the enemy wants to destroy, the first point of attack is to diminish the voice of the father. That once the voice of the father is diminished, believe you me, that society is gone. So I'm hoping that this morning fathers will wake up. You know, there are many fathers now, they are just there. And I mean just there. They've done their work. In fact, once at its best, they just say, I will provide. Once I have provided, I have done my own. And oftentimes we wonder, I ask fathers, why is it that they feel so uncomfortable when the children have grown up and they seem to spend more time with their mothers than their father. And sometimes the children now have now learned how to pay you back with your own coin. Because you thought that money is everything. When you call them, and you know at your old age, when you get old, I have seen it in many old people now. At your old age, you don't need money, you need people. You don't need money again at your old age. What you need is people. And our children now, what they have noticed is that throughout our life, the most important factor is money. So they give us the same thing. So you call them, you say, can I see you? They say, oh, what do you need, daddy? And what you want is that you want to see them. I was telling the pastors yesterday, when I was telling them that on Saturday we will be having pastors and wife retreat. And I said to them, I watched day before yesterday as my wife was she was washing, and she was in the toilet washing, and we were together with the other children in the sitting room, and bit by bit I noticed that the boys vanished. It was the girls that were around. I just noticed that the boys had gone somewhere which I didn't know. So I stood up to go and pick something in the room, and I passed by the toilet, and I noticed my wife was washing, and one of my sons was sitting down on the floor and was talking to his mother. And they were talking, they were having a conversation, they were watching, and I passed, and in my heart, I was asking myself, I said, we're having a good time in the parlor. We're watching TV. They've left me and the girls to watch TV. The boys are busy chatting up with their mother. Why? Because oftentimes they notice that the father doesn't have the time to talk. They've gotten to discover that the only thing the father sees as his responsibility is that let me just provide and move on. And that's why things happen to them that we discover later in life and we don't know why we never knew. But the mothers know. So I want to say this morning that there is a need to wake up, because the agenda of God for dominion, for his reign, God wants to reign through us. God wants to bring his reign through the male child, through the father. God wants to bring dominion upon the face of the earth. You notice that the first assignment God gave to man was to walk the land. He said, walk the land. So the first thing the man must understand is that his number one primary assignment is diligence. Diligence in everything he does. So your child will learn diligence from you. If you are slothful, your child will learn slothfulness from you. He will learn it from you. If you treat his mother anyhow, your child will treat his wife anyhow. If you are an absentee father, your child will treat his children or her children as an absentee father or mother. Listen, the principle as given to us by Galatians has not changed. And the principle is one: what a man sows, he will reap. Whatever you sow, can I affirm again, you will reap. Whatever you sow, will reap. And can I beg you, fathers, this morning, that I am not making light of your responsibility. The responsibility of being a father is enormous. Do I snap? I have snapped severally. Because sometimes I come back home and I'm expecting, and for us, we are not expressive. You are expecting a pat on the back, but you see, society have told you that as a man, be macho. And so even when you come back home, you are expecting, there is something inside you that is saying, I am not being appreciated. And oftentimes when you walk through that door and you walk into the house, and perhaps the first thing Madame says to you is that there is no this in the house. Please, I'm saying this. And can I beg us, women also, because you can make the work less tedious. You can make the work less bothersome. Because being a man, sir, we didn't. In fact, I said to somebody the other day, I said, Gaskia, if I have the privilege to come back, if there was another life to live, if I have the privilege to come back, I will be a woman. Gaskia. If there wasn't, I will tell God, I will say, Gaskia, so that Nima Ima Onekuka. Nima Ima Onekuka. Mbabu Nima. The other day, a teacher was asking in class, and he asked students, he said, what do you want to be in life? And one of the boys stood up. He said, I want to be an aeronautic engineer. I will have my flight company. I will have my airline. I'll be successful. I'll be a multi-billionaire. And the class clapped. So they asked the lady in the class. She rose up her hand and they said, what do you want to be? She said, I want to be his wife. Who wants to work hard? Who wants to labor? She said, I want to be his wife. So that I don't have to do all the things that others do. So this morning, I want to run us through some things that I believe that God, if we must reign as God desire us to reign. Please notice some qualities that men of this generation, men that must reign, must have. Number one, there must be fathers who are saved and seeking a daily walk with God. That the fathers who will reign, who will institute the reign of God upon the face of the earth, must be saved. Salvation is not negotiable. Salvation is key. Because if you are not saved, you will serve your master. And not just salvation, there must be a deliberate and a conscious walk with God. We are looking for saved fathers. We are not looking for bad example. We are looking for fathers who have been saved. I gave an example this morning with the Hausa service. No, my father, being a military man, will always host his colleagues in the house. And oftentimes they rotate the meeting. They will rotate the meeting in the house. And on this particular day, I noticed we will sit in the dining and watch the children. And watch the fathers and all the military men. We'll just watch them as they chat up. My mother will be by the hedges and she's preparing the pepper soup. She's bringing the pepper soup. And on this particular day, in my mind, I don't know what, my eyes just caught one of the glass of beer. And I said, these men must be enjoying this thing. Let me go and try it. So I noticed when the meeting was winding down, I noticed my father was seeing off people in the house. From the house they were leaving. So as he went out, I tiptoed. I said, let me also try. So I picked it. And as I took it to my mouth to take a gulp, there was a slap from the back. Tow! It was my father. Sir, that was the last time he held that kind of a meeting in our house. Till he died, anytime he came to his turn, he will take it to GTJ in Tina Junction. I never knew the reason why he did that. But now that I'm a father, I sense that what he was saying to me is that I will protect you from yourself. Can I beg you? Salvation, you must, if you will be relevant in the hands of God, you must accept the work, the complete work of salvation that was done for us on the cross. And don't remain there, you must walk with God. Number two, a father that is useful in the hands of God must be one who exercises godly leadership. Godly leadership is required. You see that in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. Listen, as a people, as men, the reason why our nation is where we are is that many children have not seen an example of godly leadership from their father. That the children will replicate what they see at home. And you know, let me use this as an illustration and it will make my point. Children were in school and they were to do end of year photograph for school. And the head teacher came and told the teacher, he said, look, this year your photograph is 100 naira. Each child should tell his parent to bring 100 naira. So the teacher, as she walked to her class, said to herself, she said, this is an opportunity to make money. Said, why will the head teacher want to? Said, okay. So she got to the class. And she said, children, when you're coming tomorrow, tell your parents that all of us, each and every one of you, is to bring 150 naira. So the young man that was to go home and tell his parent was on his way. And he said to himself, he said, I could also make money for myself in this journey. And he thought to himself, he said, I can have some ice cream for myself. And when he got home, he told his mother. He said, Mommy, our teacher told us that everyone should bring 250 naira for photo. And the mother said, when did photograph becomes 250 naira? Said, okay, when your father comes, we will tell your father. So when the father came, the mother said to the father, so welcome, your son came, and your son said that there is money for photograph, and each child is to bring 500 naira. And the father exclaimed, what is this country turning into? It is what we have made it to become. It's the kind of children we're raising. Children that see us blatantly lie. Children that see us mistreat their mother in their presence. Children that tell their children, they tell their other friends that when I grow up, I want to be like my father so that I can be punishing and beating people. That's the kind of children we're raising right now. So we must be an example of godly leadership. We must show godly leadership in the church. Not just in the church, outside the church. Number 3 is one who honors the Bible as God's word in attitude and in action. Today we have a lot of people who are Christians, particularly on the plateau. We are Christians but by words of mouth. We are Christians by profession, but we are not Christians by character. Because we are Christians, but the word of God in the Bible is not seen as the word of God. In fact, in our best application of the word of God, we do selective application. So we apply the word of God when it suits us, at the time that it suits us. When it is to our advantage, we want to use the word of God. When it is not going to be at our advantage, we'll push it aside. Fathers who will be instrument in the hands of God must believe the Bible and must leave the Bible as that which is the authority of God's word. Number 4, one who live by biblical conviction. There must be. Listen, where we are now, if we don't retrace our step to biblical conviction, we will self-destroy. We will self-destroy ourselves because we are on a slippery slope. You go to our schools, there is no longer truth again. You go to our public place, and you see our children asking, does it pay to be honest? You ask, you go, and everywhere we go is as if when you are honest, you are the wicked one. I don't know about you, but that's what is happening right now. When you are honest, you are the wicked one in Nigeria right now. When you are truthful, you are the wicked person. When you say it the way it is, now, a phrase we use is that man is wicked. And sometimes we use the word, that man is too hard. So when somebody is principled, we say he is too hard. When he has godly principle that he's living by, we say this man is wicked. We must, if we will be instrument in the hands of God. Number 5, one who loves unconditionally. One who loves unconditionally. If there is anything that is killing us presently, it is not even religion that is killing us. Sometimes when I hear people say it is religion, do you know what is number one tool that is killing us is tribalism and ethnicity. You see, religion comes in when tribalism and ethnicity have failed. That the love of God, you don't see it being demonstrated in the life of the people of God, particularly as fathers. You must love unconditionally. Your children must be able to see, look at you, and when you punish, and sometimes I do that to my children, before you get it, you will surely get it. When I say get it, you will get the lashes, but before you get it, I will tell you. And I will remind you severally what I have said to you before now. Do you know the reason why? Let them know that you love them. But let them know that they have done wrong, they must be punished for it. We must teach our children to know that for every action there is a consequence. The kind of children we are raising now, we are raising children that do not even know that for every action, every decision that they make, there is a consequence to it. We just say, allow them. Do you know what? One phrase that the devil has sold to us right now is allow them, they are just children. Don't worry. By the time they are grown, bending them will be one of the difficult things. You start crying to us. And you see, oftentimes right now, for religious people, church becomes the place. They say, please pray for us. Lokacin da ya kamata a yi aiki, an ke yin aiki. And whenever I hear people say, no, one of the things that I have noticed is that any child you raise well, in the midst of drug addicts, as they are injecting themselves, he remembers and says, this is not the home I came from. This is not the values I was raised in. He will retrace his step. So if a child is under your roof as a father, and like it has happened right now, our children have taken over. They are the one in charge of the home right now. And they know our mumu button very well. Our children know our mumu button. And they play us. A mother came to school here to come and fight a teacher. And as I was even talking to the mother, she was vibrating. I said, madam, cool down. Cool. She said, no. She said, I will beat him. I will do what? Eventually, when she left, and we called the student in the class, we said, what actually happened? They now said, this is what this girl did. So I said to the head teacher, I said, can you call the father? I want to see the father. And we called the father. The father came here, and I explained to him. I said, look at it. I said, your daughter is here. Let's have that discussion. By the time the daughter opened up and she said, yes, that was what I did. I said, what did you go home to tell your mother? And she told us what she went home to tell her mother. The mother had already made a public embarrassment of herself. So when the father went back and said to her, what actually happened was not this. And at that time, I had made up my mind that I don't want them here again. So I wrote a letter. And I said, madam, please, even if you want your refund for your school, but it's just to prove a point that for us here, there is a value that guides us. There is a value. The father pleaded. I said, no. The only plea I will listen to is if the mother comes here and apologizes. If she apologizes, then I'll take this child back. But if she doesn't apologize, this child leave this school. She never apologized, and he left, and she left. That for us, we must get to the point of knowing that we are not immune from the manipulation of our children. Please, they are exposed to what you are not exposed to. Some of the things they watch on cartoons, sir, me and you, when we were growing up, we didn't watch cartoons. At best, in those days when the TV used to have those lines, the only thing you were permitted to watch was Sesame Street. Sir, I don't know about you, but the only thing I watched was Sesame Street. 5 to 6, and after 5 to 6, everybody. But these ones, they are taught emotional manipulation. So they manipulate you emotionally. They are taught mental manipulation. They manipulate you mentally. And you are there, and you say, I am the father. No, you are not, sir. Upgrade yourself. The word of God this morning, as I round up with the last point, it says, those men who will reign with God must be men that discipline in love. Listen, I've seen many books now that people are writing, particularly Western books, and they tell you, you see, you negotiate with the child. I said to one, I was in a conference, And one came from the US and he was telling us, you negotiate with a child. I said, sir, if my parent had negotiated with me, you would have not found me here. I would have died before now. That there is a place, listen to me, there is a place for discipline, but not affliction of pain. Nobody is advocating affliction of pain. But you see, oftentimes when we talk about discipline, we only think of discipline as carrying cane to flog. What is the discipline? What about the discipline of waking up that child in the morning? You have a car and your child cannot wash your car. You have a teenager in the house. He wakes up and the first thing he does is that he's in the room, he's watching whatever he's watching. A parent recently came to me and pleaded with me and said to me, please, can you just look for work for my child? I will pay you. I will be the one to pay the salary. Look for work anywhere. Just let my child wake up in the morning and go to work. So I asked her, I said, Madam, what's the problem? Said, my child finished school at a very early age. He finished before he was 20. Said, now my child is 28. Said, it was too late before I discovered that my child, who is a girl child, doesn't know how to cook. She said to me, now I have domesticated her because she has been at home for 3 years now. But she now says something to me. She said, now what I'm begging you to help me do is to make her someone who has a disciplined life that can wake up in the morning, dress up and say, I am going somewhere, and come back and say, I have come back from work. She said, I don't care. I will pay you. In fact, she gave me the starting salary. Listen, when you don't discipline that child, you will pay for it in the future. Because in the midst of your aging, the child, you'll be hearing the child will say, this old man, don't disturb us. If you go die, make him die quickly, I beg. The discipline of making your child responsible. You know, I tell my children, I'll give them 1,000 naira. I'll say, this is your allowance. But before you get another one, explain how you spent that one. That's the discipline. The child wakes up in the morning and I'm asking, what are you doing today? You don't just come because you have finished WAEC and from morning till evening you are sleeping. And you say, hey, just leave them. No, they rest. Sir, when we were their age, we came to WAEC to check our result ourselves. Now you drive them to go and check result for them. When we were their age, we were writing JAM. We went to know our center ourselves. Now you are checking center for them and driving them to your center. No discipline. So the child face, and do you know the reason now? We now say our children are depressed. You build a weakling as a child. You raise the weakling. You say our children are depressed. They are facing depression. Sir, they go face depression. Because you see, the child is growing up. Please listen to me. The child is growing up, not in the US, in Nigeria, when there is one Ajakpako by the Lungu there. He's growing up, and the child will land in the same office As a man that went to GSS Ginde Akwati, your child went to Hillcrest. They are frying egg and chicken for him. He is in the place of work with somebody that is rugged. And that your child, every time he's crying, they don't like me. And the one that was raised hard is looking and say, make it down one. Make it down one. He said, you see, we walk 1 kilometer, we suffer. She had to fear 5 kilometers. He has been exposed to difficult terrain. See, sometimes we overshield our children. We overprotect them. The other day, one of our reverend was asking me when one of my children was walking with Mr. Adebayo. One of our reverend was passing by. He said to my child, he said, let me give you lift. And he said, my child said to them that he doesn't want lift. He's going to walk. So he called me. He said to me, he said, sir, he said, your children don't need this, so you are too big to be exposing them to this kind of suffering. I said, see, now me be the big one, they no big. Let them chart their part of bigness. So that, see, if you don't discipline them, whatever katatara, by the time you are gone, it will follow you. You say, no, I have enough wealth for them to eat for the rest of their life. Wait and see if you don't teach them discipline. If you don't teach them the discipline of work. If you don't teach them the discipline of relationship. If you don't teach them the discipline of honoring God, that child will embarrass you big time. I beg you, parent, what we're doing to our children is not enjoyment. I've heard parents say this foolish and stupid statement. Me, I suffer. I don't want to make my child suffer. Don't worry. Don't worry. I heard a popular quote and I end with this statement. He said, my grandfather walked to work in the 60s every day. He walked 5 kilometers to his place of work. He said, my father rode on a bicycle to his work. He said, now I am driving a car. He said, my son will drive a Mercedes-Benz to work every day. He said, his son, my grandchild, might drive a Rolls-Royce. He said, my great-grandchild will repeat what my grandfather did. He will walk to work. Because the system of life is that things shift. Things revolve. If you don't grill your children in discipline, sir, they will not have it. You know, every time you are putting cushion for them, they want to fall. You know, my wife was the one who taught me that lesson. My baby, one of our child, will be jumping. And when she jumps, I run to grab her. One day she said to me, she said, Kai, she said, you will enjoy yourself. She said, Kabarta ta fadi za ta koyi hankali. So on this particular day, she was jumping. She jumped, whoop, wow. Listen, by the time she landed, she said, Daddy. I turned my eyes the other way. She said, I fell. Sir, the jumping has stopped. Sir, that applies to every area of life. Close your eyes to some things. That child comes and tells you, let's see, I don't have much, I have to manage. Tell him manage. He tells you I have to walk to the place of work. Tell him to do that. Sir, he will see things, he will be exposed to life. We want to build godly children. The path, the craft, and the manual has been placed in our hands. I beg us, may we adopt the manual of God to raise our children in a godly way. May the Lord bless his word in our heart. Let us pray.